This mutant female fishman has the same body structure as a human woman, and the man in front of her has been trapped on the island for years, a long time of loneliness. He has developed a liking for fishmen. The man's name is Django. He's a meteorologist. He was sent to explore the climate on an isolated island in the Antarctic. The island is largely cut off from the outside world. Every corner is eerie. The captain then takes Django to the last weatherman, only to find that it hadn't been inhabited for a long time. There was a thick layer of dust on the table. Then the captain took Django to the lighthouse, only to find that it had become a fortified fortress. It was surrounded by spikes. Once up in the lighthouse, the two men met an old man with a beard. They found out from the old man the last weatherman had been dead for a long time. The captain then prepared to take Django and leave the area, but Django didn't want to go back to see his wife. He wants to live alone on the island, but he didn't know that the nightmare was about to begin. At night, Django cleaned his room, but inside a diary, he found a wedding photo. At that moment there was a sudden knock at the door. Kung went over to see. A black hand was sticking out from underneath. Kung stomped on it with his foot. He then hid in the cellar. Through the gap, he saw the monster's eyes. He stabbed it with his knife. The monster was driven away. The next day, in order to find out the truth, he went to the lighthouse to look for the old man. In return, the door was closed. He had no choice but to reinforce the walls outside the house. Then he poured gasoline on it. Everything was ready. Django is determined to fight the monster to the end. Night falls. Django looks out of the window. He saw that there was a horde of monsters. Django knew he couldn't get rid of them with a gun, so he turned around and grabbed a torch. He lit the petrol on the ground. In an instant the whole house was surrounded by a huge fire. The monsters were successfully pushed back. Kung also took the opportunity to run out of the house, although he had survived the night, but the house was already burnt down. What to do the next night? So Django decided to go and find the old man, but on the way, he met a female fishman. When he woke up again, the fishman was licking the wound on his hand. At that moment the old man opened the door and came in. The fishman immediately hid himself away. By the time Django reacted, his wounds had all healed. The old man's name was Jack. He told Django that all the creatures on the island were purified by the contaminated fish, and this female fishman was saved by himself. After several months of domestication, she was now completely subservient to him, but Django realized that there was something more to their relationship, and the fishman was very close to Django. Jack looked jealous. Then he took Django up to the lighthouse. There was an army of mutated fishermen below. Django was stunned by the sight. He grabbed his gun and fired at the bottom. Unbeknownst to him, the door behind him had already been closed by Jack. No matter how loud it was outside, Jack didn't hear it. The next day Jack opened the door and saw Kung had survived, and so the relationship between the two became stronger, because Jack needed Django to help him fight off the fishermen. But in the last few weeks, the fish had not attacked. This made Jack feel very strange, and Django had a wonderful relationship with the fisherman. One night they were playing chess together. The fishermen suddenly attacked. They were caught off guard. Luckily, the glass cover on the lighthouse helped them to withstand the attack. Then, under the fishwoman's mouth, Jack's life was saved. The next day Django spotted a cargo ship ahead. He was so excited that he took out his flare gun and was ready to fire, but Jack stopped him. The fishwoman tried to help Django because of the long period of abuse. The fishermen eventually withdrew their offer to help. In the end Jack took the flare gun away because he didn't want anyone to ruin the place. He turned around and took his anger out on the fishermen again. A guilt-ridden Django took out his carved boat, gesturing in front of the fishermen as he sailed. This gesture made the fisherman feel more gentle than he had ever felt before, and as the two of them spent time together, the two soon warmed up to each other. But Jack saw it all. To protect his position on the island, he comes up with a diabolical plan to kill. Early that morning Jack took Django to one side of the sea because there was a shipwreck down here. Django put on his diving suit and jumped in head first. The tube that feeds Django is in Jack's hands. As the boxes of treasure were being pulled on board, suddenly a fishman attacked Django. Django pulled on the tube, cueing Jack to pull himself up, but Jack was already determined to kill him. Looking at the tube, which kept begging for help, Jack's heart was in his mouth. The fishman didn't attack Django again. He opened his diving suit and swam up. Looking at Jack with a fake face, Django knew he had almost died at his hands. When he got back, Django found that the box was full of bombs, so Jack was planning to use the bombs to finish off the fishermen once and for all. Then they were near the lighthouse. After setting up the bombs, waiting for the fishermen to take the bait, but after waiting for half a month, not a single one of them was seen. Then Jack beat the fishermen up every day. Jack thought it was the fishwoman had tipped them off. At night Jack forced him to send out a distress signal and had Django open the door under the lighthouse, trying to force all the fishermen out. A few minutes later an army of fishermen did appear. When Django returned to the attic, Jack pushed the blast button. The next day the lighthouse was full of fish bodies, and the fishwoman disappeared with this attack. A month after the female fishman disappeared, he showed up with the rest of his people. He wanted to make a truce with Jack and the others, but Jack was unwilling to accept this. The beast he had once tamed, now he had the audacity to make a deal with him. Unable to accept this, Jack pulled out his gun. He shot the fisherman's little fisherman to death. Angry, Django went to Jack to argue. During the fight, Jack accidentally fell down. Seeing that Jack couldn't move, the mad fishman ate Jack. A few years later the captain brought in a new weatherman. At this point, Django looks just like the original Jack. It seems that long periods of loneliness can really destroy the heart, and a new cycle is about to begin.